Will save a life. Melanie Lawson joins us, and we talked about this yesterday. Mel, you wanted to share your family's experience.
Yeah, I'm really hoping it will impact some of our viewers today. You know, you're never really prepared to lose a parent, no matter how sick they get, no matter what bad habits they have. You can never really feel the void when you lose that person who helped create you. Well, I lost my father in October. He made some bad health decisions for 40 years, picked up cigarettes and smoked a pack a day. It haunted him. For years he tried to quit. But ultimately, that daily decision killed him.
Couldn't believe it, Bledsoe said.
At his hospital bed, reading a book to my father, I didn't realize this was his very last day alive. But it was the end of his life story. You could always find my dad on the water. In his world, Sunday mornings were for fishing. It was a love his two daughters didn't share. But when his first grandson was born, he taught him the patience, the beauty, and the adventure you can have with a rod and reel. It was one of two activities I vividly remember my father loved. The other, I hated. It was dirty, it stunk, and it was dangerous. So at a very early age, my sister and I agreed we were allergic to smoke. So we puffed outside, blew the putrid smoke through a cracked car window, or hid that cigarette butt in his hand. Whatever it took to feed the addiction. He smoked a pack a day, morning, noon, and night, for more than 40 years. It wasn't until I was older that I really understood that addiction. We encouraged him when he tried to stop smoking. But as any smoker knows, sometimes it takes 3, 4, even 5 times to really stop smoking. And sometimes it takes an illness. One that kills 90% of people infected within 5 years of diagnosis. Lung cancer. My dad was diagnosed last February, and it was one of the worst days of his life. He was convinced he was going to die, but doctors later told him he had a chance. He was a candidate for a thoracotomy. They'd go in, cut his chest, remove the cancerous upper lobe, and if the cancer hadn't spread, he'd be cancer-free. He agreed, surgery was scheduled, and we would just be patient and wait. The surgery took all morning. We later learned that the cancer hadn't spread. It wasn't in the lymph nodes, and he was cancer-free. At least that's what we thought. So now he had to heal, leaving the hospital with oxygen, bandages, tons of pills, and a scared wife and daughter. But in time, he started walking. It was a full month before I left him because I knew he'd be okay. It was another 2 months before we learned he wouldn't. They found a spot on his liver. It was 4 centimeters, cancerous and growing fast. He wasn't a candidate for chemo or radiation, so his options were limited. He felt okay, so he decided to live. In between doctor's appointments, he went to visit his crazy 3 grandkids, practiced dancing with me for my upcoming wedding, and of course, he fished. There were moments of great sadness because we knew what was happening, but he had a wedding to get to. Determined to fight, he was going to walk me down the aisle. 3 weeks before my wedding, my dad barely ate. He slept most of the day and night, and I knew that last dance we did was going to be our very last dance. My 6-foot, 3-inch tall father walked me down the aisle, weighing a little more than 100 pounds. But he helped his youngest daughter get to a man he respected and loved. He knew I was in good hands. The weekend after I came back from my honeymoon, I knew we didn't have long. I got there on a Friday. He was gone at 12:30 Sunday morning. In those 36 hours, we looked at wedding pictures, we talked, I read a few fish tales, and I was there because he waited for me. My dad died on a cool, clear Sunday morning that was perfect for fishing. We said a final goodbye to him a week later at a lakeside ceremony, spread his ashes in his favorite lake. It was a majestic morning, beautiful, peaceful, serene, in the exact moment I realized and embraced my dad's love of fishing.
So just to recap, to stop smoking, it really has to be your personal decision. My dad got sick. I thought that I could do it for him. I called the quit line. I thought I could get him to stop. But they needed him to make that commitment. They needed it from him. So ultimately, when you saw him with that patch, that was the last time he ever smoked. So he did it, but by then it was just too late.
So we wanted to bring this story to people. I know it's somewhat cathartic for you to share this in the hopes that it may change somebody's perception of their smoking. As you said, as a child of a parent who smoked, who ultimately died from smoking, you need to see this face because there's a lot of pain behind it.
There is, and you know, I didn't just want to present the story. I felt empowered by being able to tell it. I felt like it really gave his life some meaning, and the smoking that really just controlled him for so long. So today we do have some help for you this morning. We brought in Karen Nutter. She teaches free smoking cessation classes. She is standing by there on the computer to answer any questions that you had. We're holding a few things. A live chat right there on news4jax.com. It's on the morning show page, also on our front page. You can ask any questions or just tune in, log on to see what others are talking about. We have some resources on the webpage for education and support groups. You can send us an email, morningshow@news4jax.com. We'll answer them as well. And then at 8 o'clock, we're going to bring Karen on and kind of address some of the questions that people have, because I got a slew of emails just yesterday after talking about it for 30 seconds. And I know that this is a struggle that so many people have, and it's nothing to be ashamed of.
It's
but
a
you can
hard
beat it.
struggle.
It's so hard. And,
Very hard.
And if you've never gone through it or you've never loved someone who smokes, you don't get it. But then when you do, it's like, what can you do to help that person? And what step can you take today, to put down that cigarette forever?
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Coming up at 8, we'll talk about maybe what aids are available to help you cut out the smoking that could devastate your family. It's 7:44. We'll be right back.